Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Dallas Social Toastmasters. We are at March 18th, the day after St. Patrick's Day, and we have a good meeting for you tonight. One speaker, one evaluator, and let me go over a few ground rules, and we'll get our meeting started here. First of all, I'm going to keep everybody on mute as much as possible, and what I would like to do, I think, is show you the agenda. So very quickly, do the share screen. Here's our agenda. You will find that, of course, on DallasSocialToastmasters.com. If you go to our website, the members section over here on the right has a current agenda. When you click on the current agenda, it will bring up this page, which shows all of our meeting roles and the players tonight that are going to be performing actions at our meeting. If you'd like, you can keep a copy of that up so that you can follow along with everything that's going to go on during the meeting. Stopping the share just for a moment. We have already taken care of all of the meeting roles that we have to move around, and everyone pretty much has got their assignments. We should be good. I think everybody here knows how to operate Zoom at this point, so I'm not going to do too much except for the general reminder. Make sure that you have your timer pinned if you happen to be speaking. Timer tonight, of course, is going to be EPAL. So look for EPAL and make sure that you have him pinned if you're going to be speaking so that you can watch for the timing flags. With that, I'm going to go ahead and let our meeting flow over to our invocation and pledge tonight. John Vessel. John, take it away.
Hey, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to another meeting of Dallas Social Toastmasters by proxy. We're all here zooming in. Thank you for all being here. I think one of the things I'd like to mention today, as far as like an invocation and pledge, we've all made it through a full year of COVID, and knock wood, none of us had gotten it or suffered from it. And I hope that none of your family members or anybody that you know has had any issues with it. But if they did, I hope they got better and got over it and hopefully got immune. So I'd like to go ahead and start tonight. Welcome, everybody. Says, yeah. Mr. Sims, do you have anything that you'd like to say as our president this evening to start?
Thank you. We do not have any new guests tonight, one returning guest, Munish. Other than that, I have no additional comments. I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Well, yesterday was St. Patrick's Day, and the theme of my evening tonight, what about those other holidays? We all take into effect, you know, we have Christmas, New Year's, 4th of July, Easter, and, you know, like President's Day, other national holidays. But what about some of these other holidays that aren't as well known? Some of us not even remember them. Where did they come from and how did they get started? Well, my first thought tonight, of course, since it's the day after St. Patrick's Day, is St. Patrick's Day. This is not a national holiday, but this is a holiday that's celebrated all over the country. And it's probably one of the biggest holidays that doesn't have an official mandate as being a national holiday or anything else, but we all still celebrate it. A lot of people across the country celebrate it. Well, I'll tell you, this started in Ireland, but for Ireland, St. Patrick's Day is a religious holiday because it marks the day that St. Patrick came to Ireland and brought Christianity and started the conversion of the people there to Catholicism. And in Ireland, that's what it is. It's just a religious holiday, and like most religious holidays, doesn't call for a lot of drunkenness and rambling and marching and carrying on. It's just a religious holiday. St. Patrick's Day didn't get its reputation for all the activity that happens until it came to America. And that's where we converted St. Patrick's Day from just a religious observation into sometimes a pretty rowdy, drunken party. And it goes back, I mean, different people claim different things. Boston claims to be the originator of the St. Patrick's Day movement. And that happened back in March 17th, 1737. But they actually found out in St. Augustine, Florida, in 1696, that the expenditure of the Spanish forts, they launched or fired a lot of cannons and celebrated and had big parties down there. So maybe it started in St. Augustine, who knows for sure, but they were ones carrying on shooting off. So it's a Catholic thing, and that's where it started here too. When it came over here, the Catholics that were coming from Ireland after the potato famine and stuff settled in America, and they intended to keep the St. Patrick's Day tradition. And the first parade started in Boston, and it was just a small parade, but that's what kind of kicked things off. And actually, it brought a bunch of protesters too, because a lot of non-Catholic or anti-Catholic tried to disrupt it, but it continued and just snowballed from there. And I'd like to take a couple of moments to introduce our duty holders for this evening. And we're going to start with our vote counter. And our counter, Mr. Mark Schroeder. So can you explain your roles tonight, sir?
Certainly, John. I will go ahead and start with the vote counter because it's probably the easier of the two. As a vote counter, what I do is count votes, duh. And we have very few contested races tonight because we only have one speaker. Normally, we would have a contest for best speaker, best evaluator, because we would have multiple of each. And I'm sorry, I can't do anything about turning that off at the moment or muting myself. It'll stop quickly. Anyway, so let's see. We'll have normally we would have at least two speakers and evaluators, so we'd have a contest for that. We will have multiple people for table topics, so we'll have a contest for table topics as to who performs best there. And we will do best of the big three, which will be for our Toastmaster, our general evaluator, and our table topics master when we get toward the end of the meeting. I will collect all the votes. You will cast them by using the private chat to me. If you happen to have chat open, you will notice that there's a 2, and you can select in the pull down my name, which is Mark Schroeder, and be able to select to chat to me privately and send me your votes at the time that we need to do that. I tally them. If there happens to be a tie, I break the tie, but I don't tell you that there is a tie that I have to break because otherwise you know my vote. So I will announce the people who are eligible who actually get the ribbons once we get the votes cast. And my other duty is going to be the counter tonight. As the counter, I'm going to be looking for verbal crutches. Ahs, ums, in many cases so, if you use it a lot, or if you consider or use the word and, something like that, in order to run all of your sentences together, making one very long sentence out of them. I will make a note of those. Normally I would make noise. We don't have an easy way to make noise. Tonight I will just be making notes of those items and then providing a report toward the end of the meeting when called on by our Toastmaster at the end. I think that describes both of my duties. John.
Thank you. Now, our next duty holder tonight is going to be E. Paul, and E. Paul is our vote counter, our timer this evening, excuse me. And E. Paul, will you tell us what the timer does?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. So as timer, obviously I will be making sure that everybody stays within the time allotted to them. This is going to be for the prepared speeches, table topic speeches, as well as the speech evals. So I will hold up a green card, which I have made as a background. It's kind of terrible. This will indicate the minimum goal time. The yellow card will indicate the target goal time, and the red card will indicate maximum goal time, after which you will have 30 seconds to finish up. If you speak under or over time by 30 seconds, you will be disqualified and ineligible for awards. However, for table topics, you have to speak for at least a minute. There's no grace period for that. At the end, I will report qualifying times when called for by the Toastmaster. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Paul. Now, our next duty holder this evening is going to be our posture monitor, and that's going to be Mr. Giles. Go ahead, Rob. What's the posture monitor to do?
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. As posture monitor, I'm going to be looking for anything that impacts your speech in a physical way. Gestures that you might use to enhance what you're trying to say, or things that may distract from what you're trying to say. You know, scratching your head, fiddling with your clothes. It's tougher during this online session. However, I would encourage you, if you do have gestures, just bring them up a little bit higher than you might normally do so in order to enhance what you're doing. And otherwise, if you have some bad gestures, try to keep them off screen so I don't see them. If I do see them, unlike Mark, I will try to ding you, and hopefully you will hear me. If not, I will still be taking notes. But if you do something that I see, like Paul right now, scratching his head or putting his hand on his head, you will hear that bell. Hopefully you're hearing that, and hopefully you will hear that throughout. If you don't, I will still note and give a report to the general evaluator when called upon toward the end of the meeting. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rob. And our last duty holder for this evening is going to be our grammarian, and our grammarian tonight is Mr. Dagan Newland. Mr. Newland, tell us about the grammarian.
All right, thank you, John. So tonight, as grammarian, I will be keeping good uses and improper uses of the English language, and make notes throughout the meeting on that. And also, another second part is to bring up the word of the day, which is flummoxed. And flummoxed is basically means bewildered, utterly bewildered, confused, or puzzled. So I'm always flummoxed when people don't use their turn signal when they want to turn. As I was using this sentence. So remember, if you can, you'll use the word a day during the meeting if you can, but you must use the word of the day during table topics as part of the concession to qualify for table topics. Back to you, Toastmaster.
All right. Thank you, Dagan. Does flummoxed also include the use of curse words when people don't use their turn signals on you? And you're waiting to make that right. Yeah, you're waiting to make that right-hand turn with your signal on and this car coming along. So you're waiting for them, and then they get right there, and then they turn their signal on and turn right. You could have gone 5 minutes ago. That flummoxed me quite often. Now, let's go back to, we found Karen. Hey, Karen.
Sorry, guys. At a late meeting.
That's fine. Why don't we talk about, you're the all counter tonight. Are you still good for that?
Yes, I can count Oz this evening.
Okay, well, you tell us about the all counter does, please.
Okay, the R counter. I have to read the R counter. Okay, an important aspect of the Toastmasters training. Okay. After receiving the, see, it's no horn or bell though.
I know, you'll just make notations.
I'm just making notations of the odds that will be stated throughout each speech that will be given on this evening.
All right. Thank you. Glad to see you, Karen. Now, back to St. Patrick's Day. Now, as divided as America gets and everything, St. Patrick's Day was great among the Catholics in the early days, but not their non-Catholic members. It really kind of became more relaxed during the Civil War, when a lot of the Irish fought besides the Protestants and other people. And that's when it kind of softened. And next thing you know, really it's a thing. It's like, hey, let's have a drink. It's St. Patrick's Day. And, here we go. Not many people turn down a good time. And that's what usually ran. And the funny thing is, in Ireland, St. Patrick's Day is a holy day and the bars close. So in Ireland, it's like totally opposite of what we do in America for St. Patrick's Day. And like I said, this is one of the largest celebrated holidays that has no official recognition, but everybody knows about it. We don't close the banks. We don't stop, federal government doesn't close down. So we're all doing this on our own. And we've been doing it for well over 300 years now. So that's kind of impressive that a holiday that nobody recognizes but the people, as far as the government is concerned, is still one of the biggest holidays that we celebrate. All right. Now I'd like to move on to our prepared speeches for this evening, and we do have one, and that is going to be given by Mark Sims, and he's going to be evaluated by Lee King. So Lee, will you explain the goals for Mark Sims' speech tonight, sir?
Yes, Mark's objective tonight is to give an informative speech to the unfamiliar audience. This time it's 5 to 7 minutes.
Do you know the title of it?
I do not.
Mr. Sims, what's your title?
Title is He Was a Nice Guy.
Okay, thank you. So now let's welcome Mark Sims. He was a nice guy. He was a nice guy. Mark Sims.
You may have wondered from time to time how you would be remembered after you were gone. Now, most likely you'd be remembered very fondly, very happily, lots of warm memories. I heard a man once speaking a eulogy about his brother, and he said his brother needed to be simply remembered as a good and decent man. And that's really a pretty good way to summarize a life. I would definitely take that. Now, I personally do not believe that we have, from an afterlife position, a type of TV set into what goes on in life after we're gone. But if you really think about it, you can maybe guess some things on how people would react to your passing, what they would say. And it's funny, in some cases, there might be a divergence between what they would say and what they would think. Think of what might be said about you, for example. Start with family. In my case, family members might think, Mark was a family man. He was always there for his family. They might privately think, yeah, at family gatherings, he would always show up. He was always the first one in line for food. I'll give him that. And think of your coworkers. And that's maybe a better source because they know you. They understand you. They know you warts and all. My supervisor, who outwardly is a stern and formal man, he might blink back on experience and think, you know, that Mark could write a memo like no one else I've ever seen. Another coworker might think, what am I even doing here? I asked this guy for help one time on a special project. He told me he had to go to a Toastmasters meeting. What a jerk. And think of other people that know you. The preacher at my church might outwardly say, Mark was a man of strong faith. He might privately think, yeah, I would see the guy show up on Sunday mornings, but I swear I saw him sleeping from time to time. Now, I'm having a little fun with that, but it brings up maybe a more substantive, more serious point. Think of how you would want to be remembered, what you would want people to think about you and remember after you were gone, and try and live your life in that manner. For example, going back to family. My family, extended family, has a history of meeting together infrequently during the year, promising each other that we're going to get together more commonly, more frequently, and then a year later, we're kind of reconnecting. Break out of that, especially for maybe your more elderly relatives. Make the effort to stay connected, stay in contact. Tell them you're doing that because that is important to you. Think friends. Now, we want to be there for our friends. They're important to us. And I know that we all enjoy spending time with friends, but in addition to the fun things, social events, try and find ways to meet their needs, especially if they're going through a difficult time. A few years ago, I helped a friend move, and it was going to be in a hot Saturday in August. I dreaded it in advance. I disliked it the day of, but that was her need. She needed some help. And that's the kind of thing that I'm sure you do that we need to continue to do. And when you do that, tell your friends you're doing this because they are important to you. Think of your work. Your supervisor might get tired of people coming up to him or her and saying, hey, I'd like a raise, I'd like a promotion. But if you approach your organization and tell them you want to do something substantive, you want to make a difference, especially if you feel like you're maybe focusing on superficial, less important things, make that effort to really try and make your time count, and tell them you're doing that because that is important to you. And then think of your spiritual beliefs, whether that's in the context of a religion or a church or just a general set of values, and really make the effort to try and live your life consistent with your stated beliefs. That could mean ministering to souls. It could mean serving at a food bank. And do these things because it's important to you and important to the world that you are in. So in summary, when your time comes and you pass on, you would want people to see more than he was a nice guy or she was a nice woman. You would want people to remember you as someone that served, that helped others, that made a difference and left behind a positive legacy. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mark. Good speech tonight. Thank you very much. Now, timer. Paul, did Mark qualify on time?
Mark did qualify with a time of 5 minutes and 45 seconds.
Thank you, sir. So we don't need to vote tonight for the best speaker since we only had the one, but please go ahead and go to the chat, send Mark Sims your thoughts, comments on how you found his speech, what you liked, things like that, so that he can get an evaluation from us individually. And he'll get a regular evaluation, of course, in a little bit. Now, another thing, let's talk about Columbus Day. Where did Columbus Day come from? Of course, we all know supposedly that Columbus discovered America, or he was the one that officially got credit for discovering America in 1492. Well, in 1892, there was a celebration for Columbus Day in New Orleans, and they were celebrating by lynching 11 Italian people because of it. Now, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but in our society, it kind of makes sense too. It's like, this Italian discovered America, so let's hang a bunch of Italians. That was crazy. So all of this came out, it was the 400th anniversary of Columbus landing. So Benjamin Harris, who was the president of that time, wanted to quell all the anarchy and stuff that was arising, because of course the Italians were complaining and stuff that, you know, they were being lynched and they were being killed, and why, I don't know. It's like, so they discovered America, so why are we, you know, attacking them? I don't know what other context there was going on back then, but Benjamin Harrison declared Columbus Day as a one-time holiday that year to kind of dissuade people from killing Italians and to placate the Italian population of America. Now, here come those Catholics again. And I can say that because I'm Catholic. But Columbus Day became a national holiday because of the Knights of Columbus, which is the men's organization inside the church, and they dress up and they help a lot in the church and doing outside works, and they usually run the bingos and things like that. My dad was a Knight of Columbus, that's fine. Anyway, they were the ones that pushed America into creating Columbus Day, and they got a lot of Catholic priests and stuff, and they were all lobbying the President of the United States to recognize Columbus Day as a national holiday. And that finally happened in 1934 when they did Congress created the act that created Columbus Day and made it a national holiday. Nowadays, Columbus doesn't have a good reputation because of the use of slavery and other things like that. So kind of leaves you out there. We honor a day, but then we find out he's got bad baggage in the back. Just about everybody we know and everybody we look at has a lot of baggage until we find out about it. Hey, you're wonderful. And, oh, well, wait a minute. So anyway, now I feel like we're going to move on to our table topics portion of this evening. And our table topics host tonight is going to be Rob Giles. So Mr. Giles, will you take us on to table topics? And I have one thing I want to add afterwards, so come back to me if you don't mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. Table Topics is here to help people to be able to speak more efficiently and more polished in an impromptu setting. These are types of things like interviews or social gatherings where you're pulled aside by somebody and you start talking, or you're in a group of people and they start talking about something and perhaps you don't know a whole lot about it. And table topics can help you to make your way through that in the best way possible. So there's a lot of great things that you can take away from table topics and what it can do from you. Heck, even for a blind date, table topics can really help you in that case. But in general, table topics is good pretty much for anybody. And table topics, as we heard from the timer, is 1 to 2 minutes. And you have to reach at least 1 minute. You can go to 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Once you pass that, then you're disqualified. You need to use the word of the day. Don't get flummoxed, just use it. Those are the two things that you have to do in order to qualify. You want to make sure that you keep your timer pinned or on your screen, and your timer for this evening is EPAul. So look for EPAul, make sure that he's on your screen. And we have the theme for the meeting, which is holiday origins. I'm going to pull from that and maybe not lean as much on the origins part, but you never know. I'm going to lean definitely into the holiday part in a heavy way. What I want to know is, what is one of your earliest holiday memories? Tell us about that. I'm going to ask this of Munish. Munish, can you tell us about one of your earliest holiday memories, please?
Good morning, everybody. What is my earliest holiday memories? First time in my life when I went abroad. That time I was young and I have never been abroad before that. I went with a tour and I was quite nervous. I remember now also I think it is my nature. I panic a lot. When I went over there, I was quite ecstatic. I'm from a well-off family. I went to Thailand where I had all that entertainment places. I've been there. I spend money everywhere. While coming back at the airport, I was not able to find my luggage. I panic. I was scared. Maybe I have lost my luggage. That incident. Why do I panic? The reason is it was my first time of my life. I didn't have confidence. Confidence is the best accessory in the world. No doubt, I have learned a lot because when you travel abroad, you get more exposure. I live in a small town in India and going to Bangkok for Indian. Bangkok is the most cheapest country. Their economy is, their money is double than the Indian money, but still that is the cheapest country for us. I had a huge amount of money in my pocket. I spent the money everywhere. I didn't do any misery. But that incident make me, today also when I remember this incident of my life, why do I panic? The same incident happened with me 5 years ago after in Goa, where I was standing at the carousel, my luggage was not there. There I didn't bother. Why did I do it over there? The reason is it was my first time. Over to the Toastmaster, please.
Thank you very much, Munish. We appreciate that. Holidays. We all have ones that we appreciate, ones that we don't care for too much. I would like to ask for someone to tell us about your favorite holiday and why it's your favorite holiday. And this one is going to go to Karen Smith. Karen?
Hello, my Toastmaster friends. I will tell you briefly about my favorite holiday. My favorite holiday would be Thanksgiving. With Thanksgiving, the holiday, you don't have you're not really pressured into purchasing gifts or doing anything. You just come together as family and give thanks for the things that you're thankful for. This holiday is one of my favorites because you get to see your family. It's almost like a family reunion to me. You get to see lots of your family and you're doing nothing but eating and relaxing and having a good time. You're never flummoxed, is that what it is? Flummoxed or perplexed with all the things that go on with other holidays, as far as Valentine's Day, when you have your pressure to get something for someone else, or Christmas thing, or a birthday. You just don't have those cares and those worries to deal with. All you have to do is come together and be family. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen. We appreciate it. We all have our favorites, and Thanksgiving is one of mine, just to let you know that. But sometimes we can get overwhelmed with the amount of holidays that are out there. It seems like almost every year we end up adding more holidays of some sort. I would like to ask Paul, holidays, are there too many or should we make more? Tell us what you think and why. And Dagan will time you.
Okay, I was going to do it, but if Dagan's got it. Dagan, you got it?
Oh, I was actually timing myself, but okay, it's nice to have someone else to time me. That's a very good question, Mr. Table Topics Master. I think the number of holidays we have is, I mean, you can really find a holiday for everything these days. Pretty much every day of the year, you could probably find a minor holiday of some sort that somebody across the world is celebrating. So I don't think it's really necessarily that it's too much or that we have too many holidays. I think it's really based on whoever is interested in celebrating whatever event that they think is meaningful to celebrate. I think even the ones that are well known, like Christmas, Thanksgiving, those have more of a large following in terms of who's celebrating. And so I think generally those reach a larger audience, but even some of the smaller holidays that are less common, I think are still important to the people who, find meaning in those ones. So I don't really think that there's really a right or wrong in terms of how many holidays we should have. I think it should be based on the individual, just a personal preference. And, if you want to celebrate something, you can make your own holiday, you can have fun with it. There shouldn't really be a limit as to what you're allowed to celebrate. And that's kind of my thoughts on that. I'll hand it back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you very much, Paul. We appreciate that response. The next thing that I would like to talk about is a little bit leaning toward origins, but not entirely an origin, at least not for the holiday itself. But I would like to ask, do you have any holiday traditions? And if so, what might they be for what holiday? And this one goes to Mr. Mark Sims.
Thank you. The holiday traditions aren't quite as frequent or not as well entrenched now as they were in prior years. My parents have passed on, and then usually around Thanksgiving or Christmas, it's just my brother and I, maybe some friends. So I'm not really flummoxed, but don't really have a whole lot to offer other than that. Usually it's more convenient for us to go out to eat on Thanksgiving or Christmas rather than make the meal myself. Although, of course, for the holidays that recently passed, we didn't feel like going to the Furs buffet with a million other people was a good option during a pandemic. So I actually prepared a meal then. But I guess that is one option, or one type of tradition is on the actual holiday of keeping it simple, going out, having a nice meal, being around an extended amount of people, and trying to keep the day as stress-free as possible. And I can think back fondly, especially when I was growing up, of numerous Christmases with extended family, either in Sherman or out in Sadler, where some other grandparents lived, with a room full and chaos. And that's really not the situation anymore. So that's the best tradition I can think of. Simple, stress-free, and get it done. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you very much, Mark. At this point, we will conclude the contestants for our table topic session, and I will go back over the list after I get reports from our timer and our grammarian. So let me ask Mr. Timer, did all of our contestants qualify on time?
Everyone I timed qualified.
And Dagan, can you confirm whether
Yes.
EPAL? Okay. And moving on to you, Dagan, as grammarian, did all of our contestants use the word of the day?
I know I
You're
heard, I heard Karen Smith and Mark Sims use it, but was not sure about Munish. So
Munish, can you confirm whether you used it or not? I don't remember hearing you say it either.
Yeah. So that'd be just Karen Smith and Mark Sims.
And I know that EPAL probably got a little flummoxed because I started showing that at the very, very end of his table topics. But sometimes that happens. We get flummoxed. So at this point, you have two contestants that qualify, as Dagan just mentioned, and that would be Karen Smith, who talked about her favorite holiday, and also Mark Sims, who talked about holiday traditions. So please go ahead and shoot a private chat to our vote counter for the evening, and that is Mr. Mark Schroeder. Send it private chat to him as to who you think did better in regard to table topics for those two contestants. Again, Karen Smith and Mark Sims. Please go ahead and also send any comments that you might have to any of the speakers, and you can send that to them individually in a private chat. Let them know what you liked or what you thought they might be able to work on. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and hand the meeting back over to our Toastmaster for the evening. Please help me to welcome back Mr. John Vessels.
Hey, thank you, Rob. There's like one more holiday I kind of want to touch base on, and that is one I bet nobody here knows what day it is. What day is Flag Day? Does anybody know without looking at Google?
November 11th?
June 14th.
May 15th.
Mr. Sims, June 14th.
I have no idea.
I think I was more toward like Armed Forces Day or something. I don't know.
Oh, I should have looked that one up. I forgot about Armed Forces Day.
I was a little flummoxed, so I figured I'd throw that in there.
Yep, I get it. But no, back in 1861, in Hartford, Connecticut, a young man wanted to recognize patriotism and decided to honor the American flag, which was 84 years old since we adopted it. The modern, was not modern, but the most modern American flag from 1776. And that was the start of Flag Day. And it was June 14th. And the tradition kind of went along. And again, it was not nationally recognized. They just started having some celebrations. And finally, in 1949, Harry Truman declared that June 14th it was going to be National Flag Day, and that is when we started celebrating it annually on an official national recognition level. Now, I do need to make a correction. Columbus Day did not become an official holiday until 1968, and that was done by LBJ. So I had to correct that. But and now one more holiday. Do y'all know what today's holiday is? Brand new, 2021.
Sober Day?
Huh?
Sober Day from St. Patrick's?
Yep. Today is the Goddess of Fertility Day, and it started just this year. And it was to recognize fertility, rebirth, and giving life and celebrating life. And that's what March 18th is. Brand new one this year. Yes, there's a holiday for everything. I missed Donut Day a few weeks ago, but hey, that's life. I don't need to be eating any donuts anymore anyway.
Wouldn't that be Aphrodite Day or something like that for today?
Well, you have to remember that there are Greek gods and Roman gods, and so it's Venus for the Romans and it's Aphrodite for the Greeks. So they wanted to be inclusive, having our PC. And I don't know what the Norse god of fertility is, but I'm sure they have one. So it's Fertility Goddess Day. Now, I'm through for the evening. I guess y'all are tired of hearing about holidays. So I'd like to go ahead and change the meeting over to our general evaluator for tonight. And our general evaluator is Karen Lee. So Karen, will you take over, please?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests, Manish. This is the evaluation portion of our meeting, and first we'll hear from the speech evaluator, and then I'll give my evaluation of the meeting. Each evaluator speaks for 2 to 3 minutes. Our first and only evaluator this evening is Lee King. He's going to be evaluating Mark Sims' speech. He was a nice guy. Lee?
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Mark Sims. Mark, you gave a very good speech today. I have heard this speech previously, and I believe that you have definitely improved on this speech since you have last given it. The things that I really liked about your speech, I thought that you had a really good point. It was very relatable to the audience, and you told us what you were going to tell us. You told us what you planned on telling us, and then you gave a nice conclusion. Because my time is a little bit limited, and you're going to give this as a speech contest on Saturday, I'm going to spend a little more time talking about missed opportunities. The first missed opportunity that I noticed within this speech was your face. I would suggest prior to the contest that you align yourself better with the camera and perhaps back up. We saw some hand gestures, but we missed almost half of your face. So definitely spend a little more time getting comfortable with the webcam, making sure that your full face is in view, as well as the ability to have hand gestures that are noticed. The other thing that I would really suggest that you work on would be to give a little more of a story about somebody that maybe perhaps you wanted to know a little bit more up front to better capture your audience, and then conclude with another story with that same person. So if you want to say that you want your speech to really talk about how you wish you had known your grandfather more, or how someone else could be more memorable, give us a story that would hook us into wanting to be a little more in tune to this topic, and then a little bit more of a story at the very end that will leave the audience thinking. Because one of the difference between a good speech and a good international speech is that call to action and to leave your audience thinking. And I believe that that was the one thing that was lacking in this speech that would separate it from a good speech versus a good international speech. So in summary, very good story, very good flow. Work on repositioning your camera, work on putting in a couple of additional stories, hook your audience a little bit stronger, leave them thinking, and I know that you'll do well at the contest. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Well, thank you very much there, Lee. I was going to go ahead and ask for each of the different roles to go ahead and give their summary for the meeting.
Time.
Pardon? The timer? Mr. Paul, how did Lee do on his speech for his evaluation? What was his time?
Thank you, Ms. General Evaluator. Lee qualified with a time of 2 minutes and 46 seconds.
2 minutes, 14 seconds. Thank you. All right. I'm going to go ahead and ask for each of the different role players to give their reports. Diggin, you are the grammarian. Do you see any interesting uses of the English language you'd like to report?
Well, my report is gonna be nice and sweet and short, because I can do my report based on, you know, how I know people speak currently, and I did not see anything really exceptional, and I didn't hear anything that was really bad. So everybody did a really good job and spoke how I know they speak, which is always really good. And as for the word of the day, you know, well, half the people used it during the table topics, and Rob has used it several times, and he even used it in the chat. So, and you know, a couple other people use it too. So great job with that. So if you can, you know, try to use it, you know, throughout the week till our next meeting. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you. Also, our counter. How did our How are our odds tonight, Karen?
Okay, so Mr. Mark Schroeder, of course, took care of my odds prior to me chiming in at 7:06. So he received, Mr. John Bessels had 1 ah, E. Paul had 1 ah, and Mark Schroeder had 4 ahs prior to me chiming in. After that, I really found that everyone had very eloquent speeches. And there were, Mr. Munish had 1 ah. Of course, myself, I had an ah or a trip up in my speech. And who else? That would be all. Everyone else spoke very eloquent. So no more ahs were noted.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. Back to you, madam.
Let's see, our posture bill. We need a report for our posture bill at this time. Rob?
Thank you very much, Madam General Evaluator. As mentioned at the beginning, tough to catch people with posture problems or enhancements in a virtual setting. Most of us aren't standing up and backing up. One of the things that I will note was similar to what Lee had pointed out for Mark Sims, was it was difficult to see. I saw some use of fingers and hands, but they were down like right about where I have them now. So we might have saw like little pieces of it. Just moving back just a tiny bit might bring those up and allow people to see them. So I would say that maybe I did see some emphasis with those gestures, so that would be good, but we need to see them. So think about that. There was one point, Mark, when you did adjust your glasses, so you might want to think about that and keep that in mind as well. Try to refrain from that during your speech in the international speech contest. John, you used some hand gestures at the beginning when you were talking about getting turn signals, and I think it was after Dagan had given his description as grammarian and talked about flummoxed, and you were using your hands in order to that. So you used that well. Mark Schroeder, I was trying to ding you, but I couldn't, and I don't know whether you would have heard me or not at the beginning when you were giving your descriptions. You actually had your hands clasped there for a couple of times at the very beginning of your descriptions. Obviously, most of the time we won't see it because they're below, but they were up for a short period of time that way. Everybody else did great. I did not notice any other distracting gestures or posture, and I didn't notice anything else that was exceptional. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Rob? I got flummoxed when I didn't ask for the timer's report after Lee's speech there, Lee's evaluation there. With my report, I noticed that we did start on time. And Mark Schroeder took over for just a little bit for Karen until she was finished with her meeting. All the roles were explained before we started the meeting. The theme of the meeting was very good because it was incorporated into all aspects of the meeting. I even found out some different kinds of holidays like National Fertility Day. Who would have ever thought that one, about that one? All of these speech introductions were made, and the Toastmaster did lead the applause after every segment of the meeting. Our table topics were consistent with our theme of the meeting, and all of the participants were called on in the appropriate order. To evaluate, Lee is our evaluator tonight. He also did say that he was, at the beginning, was going to be speaking about missed opportunities. He gave Mark Sims quite a few suggestions on how to improve his speech when he gave it, or gives it at the contest on Saturday. He gave more than 3 suggestions to him when he was doing his evaluation. So I think those are going to be helpful for Mark when he gets ready to participate in the contest on Saturday. Also, I do think that the word of the day was incorporated several times into our meeting. And I would just need to ask, Mark, do you need, Mark or John, do you need control of the meeting at this point?
I do not. You can go.
Okay, and I'll just ask for we don't need a vote for the evaluator since we had just the one evaluator, but you do need to vote for the best of the big three, which would be your Toastmaster, John Vessels, your Table Topics Master, Rob Giles, and me, Karen Lee, is the general evaluator. And we'll go ahead now and send control the meeting over to our Toastmaster, our president, Mark Sims.
Thank you, Karen. And I want John Vessels to know that if you work for the state of Texas, you get numerous different unusual holidays and actually get some time off. Earlier this month, March 3rd, was Texas Independence Day, which is a state holiday. And this is how bad off that I am. I actually worked on that day because I had some things that needed to get done. But I actually took a couple of hours here and there during the course of the week. So I got some benefit from it. And in April 21st, San Jacinto Day. And that is a state holiday. And again, if I have the time, if I'm not overly overloaded with work, I'll get that. And in late August, I think August 27th, Lyndon Johnson's birthday. That is for state of employees, that is a holiday. And I think that's going to be on a Friday. So I'm very sure I will take that because it'll be a nice longer weekend.
I remember that. So, oh, I'm going to take LBJ Day off. Let me
go for it. That's his birthday. And now we are totally nonpartisan when it comes to holidays. So if we wanted to have holidays for both of the Bush presidents, hey, that would be perfect. I mean, the more the merrier. And since Dwight Eisenhower was actually born in Denison, him also, so I'm all for that. And while we're waiting for the votes to be tallied, this is the business part of the meeting. And a couple of items come up for discussion. One that obviously you've heard mentioned is that there will be an area contest on Saturday. It starts at 1. The contestants, and I'm one of them, are encouraged to join at 12:30. And if you have an opportunity, please do this. You can find the link on the District 50 website. And actually, Rob may have more details since he is going to be our representative, our contest chair. And I'll let Rob speak to that.
I don't really have anything other than please come and support Mark Sims, who is going to be competing actually in both contests, hopefully, barring any negation for table topics, but I think that we're going to get him in there as well as a table topics contestant for our club, if not just international at that point.
Wait, is Karen?
Either way,
Karen was
go ahead.
second. Karen was
Yeah,
second.
Karen cannot attend, so that's why that's the case. So unfortunately, Lee and Laren and Karen, who competed in our club contest, are unable to attend on Saturday. So that leaves us to hopefully have Mark in as our representative for our club. But beyond that, I would just say, yeah, go to the link that Mark had sent on D50 under the listing of contests. It's the contest page on our D50 website, which is d50tm.org. So you go there and then just make sure you click on the link to the Zoom meeting for Area 33. You'll have to scroll down through there, but I will send a link out to everybody. And Well, there you go. Mr. Mark Schroeder is helping out with that. He will show you there. You can actually look and see on March 20th, if he scrolls down a little bit more. Yeah, so you'll see, I think it's the second one on March 20th at 1 p.m. Metro. It's the link on the far right side. That's not it. Yep, it's that one right there for Zoom. The other two are for the program, and you can look at that as well. And the other link is for the flyer for the contest. So that's where you want to look for it. I will send a quick email out with a link to that page so you have it. Come and support, enjoy. Contests are always great and fun and interesting, sometimes motivational and inspirational in many ways. So please do so. I will also note, moving on from that, due to contests on Saturday, the normal member orientation that I do hold on Saturdays will be this week on Sunday at 10 a.m. So please keep that in mind. I believe that I've changed it on the calendar on our website. If not, I will take a quick look and do that overnight tonight. So it'll have the link in there to get to the member orientation if you would like to attend that on Sunday at 10 a.m. I don't believe that I have anything else. So I'm going to hand it back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Rob. And one more time, that is the metro area, correct?
Is area 33. We are in
area 33.
We are in the metro division.
Metro division. Excellent.
Correct. I didn't mention that, but yes, look for area 33 listed on that website under the list of content.
Well, Mark Schroeder tipped us off because I was waiting for him to scroll down a little lower, but where he was at, I said, oh, that's also a 1 p.m. meeting. Excellent. So there was a 1 p.m. meeting for the Plains divisions, but he has me set straight. It will be the Metro division. Excellent. And Dagan, is there anything you want to discuss about dues?
No, I think there's a few that have not paid yet, but I know there's a couple people that just paid a day or two ago, so that's good. Yeah.
All right. And very good news. And anyone who's in the meeting tonight, if you've not had an opportunity to renew, please do that. We definitely value our members. And last Thursday, after the regular meeting, we had an officers meeting. And one of the issues we discussed was when to resume in-person meetings. And it doesn't look like real soon. We may even defer that until at least June 30th to be consistent with the division or the District 50's position. And actually, Mark Schroeder during the week sent out some very good emails on some things to consider. At some point, we want to discuss, see if there's an interest in a hybrid meeting, some people on sites and some others joining by Zoom. We do that in the Grand Prairie Club I'm in. It works, but there's some challenges with that. So we will, as time elapses, consider our options, but no immediate changes or no immediate in-person meetings since the vaccines are getting out there, but there's still a ways to go. And I am wondering if anyone is aware of any other club business to bring up. I can't think of anything.
I'll go ahead and just say a couple of things about those two emails just real quick. Number one, yes, I did send out an email, which was mostly to the officers. Now that we are beginning to get some of our members vaccinated, a few have been totally vaccinated, some are beginning to get vaccinated. Some we are talking this week, and we know that at that point it's probably at least 4 weeks plus the 2 weeks, but then 2 or 3 weeks beyond that before it's fully effective. There is always a question of could we or should we consider going back to Ozonas, and if so and when so. I think I just want to put it in your mind to think about. Would you be comfortable if you have been vaccinated? Would you be comfortable going back into Ozonas once you are fully vaccinated? We have other questions that we have to answer amongst ourselves about what we can ask and can't ask as to whether or not we can even ask you. There's nothing stops you from volunteering the information, but we also have issues because we're a public club of, do we have to provide accommodations for people who either cannot or choose not to get the vaccine? We also have questions of what are we going to do with our guests that we have little or no control over if they just show up. So we're trying to work out some of those questions. And so from our standpoint, think about what would you be comfortable with if you're vaccinated, but that if Dallas County is still red, does that make a difference to you? Think questions like that, because we will be asking you when you'll feel comfortable again. Also, with regard to the hybrid meeting, this one only went out to the officers, but I was asking questions about if you have any experience with doing hybrid meetings where we have things like the distance problem that we have between our stage and any reasonable place that we could put microphones and cameras. I'd be interested in your feedback. We do know of one club, at least out of Allen, that was doing exactly that. And he had put together a package of equipment to do that he was very happy to have gotten under $500 for the package. And it's like, that's a little bit much, I think. You know, I think we ought to be able to do it for less than that. But on the other hand, I certainly don't think that I can take one of these standard webcams and put it about 10 feet away and have it work well. So I'm looking at equipment. If you have experience in any of that, at least come and talk to me, because I'd love to get what you know and suck everything out of your brain the same way I did out of the guy who was doing this in Allen. I got a list of the equipment and all that he was using to make sure that I knew what was working for them. I think that's probably it for those two things. I've got both of those in flight, mostly between the officers, but eventually some of those will boil down to our members as well.
Thank you. And do you have our winners, Mr. Folk Counter?
I do indeed. All right, so let's go ahead and announce our winners for tonight then. I do have one question because I was facilitating right after the evaluation done by Lee. Did Lee qualify on time?
I believe
Okay,
so.
seeing people nod in the affirmative. Then, okay, for best speaker, of course, we have Mark Sims. Congratulations, Mark.
Thank you.
For our best table topics winner tonight was Karen Smith. Congratulations, Karen. Best evaluator tonight, having qualified on time, which I just verified, was Lee King. And finally, we have best of the big three tonight. Best of the big three goes to the envelope, please. Just kidding. John Vessels. Congratulations, John. All right, that concludes our awards.
Thank you, Mark. And if there is no further announcements that anyone has, then again, please, if you have the opportunity, join the contest on Saturday. And otherwise, have a great weekend and see you next Thursday. Thank you all so much.
All right, thank you all. And just so that no one will be flummoxed by not knowing when we are leaving the meeting, I will stop the recording at 3, 2,